Welcome to Living in the New Covenant, a daily podcast from in-depth studies. I'm your host, Paul Honeycutt, joined as always by Geoff Volker. Geoff, our topic today is 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verses 1 to 4.
This is an interesting section of Scripture, I should say, that because it contains a number of things that people tend to kind of distort a bit. So let's read that. And I'll be reading from the new NIV. Paul says, "Now about the collection for the Lord's people, do what I told the Galatian churches to do. On the first day of every week, each one of you should set aside a sum of money in keeping with your income, saving it up so that when I come, no collection will have to be made. Then when I arrive, I will give letters of introduction to the men you approve and send them with your gift to Jerusalem. If it seems advisable for me to go also, they will accompany me." Now, the reason why we're in this section, because this is a wonderful illustration of how you can fall into the trap when you're trying to understand Scripture of reading into it ideas that are really not part of it. And so this is what I think we see here. First off, when he says, "Now about the collection for the Lord's people." So we tend to think in terms of, giving every Sunday. Well, it's really not talking about that because there is a context. He's talking about in the Apostle Paul's ministry that wherever he went, because there was historically a very economically difficult time for the church in Jerusalem there, that they needed to always raise money to send back to help them. So everywhere Paul went, he evangelism, established churches, then he collected up money, and then he would send it back. This is describing that sort of a thing. So this is not sort of a text in Scripture, because I remember guys telling that you ought to give every week. So no, it's just all it is he's giving a practical method for collecting up a special offering, that would go to the believers in Jerusalem. Okay, so that's the first thing. Then it's the next thing is that we assume because he says that they are collected up on the first day of the week, that this is a proof text that believers met on the first day of the week. No, it doesn't say that. It says just collect it on the first day of the week. Now, it may be true that they had time of gathering on the first day of the week, but you'd have to prove that from other Scripture. This passage doesn't say that. It just says they collected it. It was just part of the procedure. You have to collect it sometime. You can say, well, wouldn't it make sense to collect it when we all get together? That would make sense to me, but that's not what this says. So once again, you'd have to have other Scripture, in clear context to say that. And because we have no problem with saying that other Scripture can qualify what's being said here and add to it. Also, the idea of that Sunday is the Lord's Day, that somehow Sunday's special, and therefore we should meet on Sunday. Well, that's a whole other discussion that this passage does not address, because it's not talking about gathering for believers gathering for worship. It's not talking about a special day. It's just giving, a practical methodology for collecting up funds to give to believers who are in great need in Jerusalem. Finally, it says, on the first day of the week, each one of you should set aside a sum of money in keeping with your income. So now you have to be careful that we don't fall into the trap of saying, well, the tithe, that's bringing it over from Mosaic law, the 10% deal that we are supposed to give, and that this is simply referring to something above and beyond the tithe. No, this is not talking about giving in general. This is, once again, context, very specific offering. It's a one-time deal for the believers in Jerusalem. That's what this is all about. So this becomes 1 Corinthians 16, 1-4, a great section to go to in order to be made aware of the pitfalls of reading into Scripture things that aren't there.
If you'd like more information about this topic or anything else regarding New Covenant theology, visit our website, ids.org, or contact Geoff directly at
My cell phone number is 480-313-8558, and my email address is volker.jeff@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening.